Robert writes, "We hear the word polygamy with Mormonism coupled together. Why?" Is this a trick question? Come on. The media would love nothing more to have Americans believe that anybody who believes what I believe is this guy. What's his name? Jeffers. The guy who, hey, I'm going to marry 40 people and I'm going to dress them up like we live in the 1800s. If I could just get my wives to wear button-up shoes. This guy's a nut job. And as tempting as it is to want a bunch of wives, I'm having trouble with one, and then dress them up like we're in the 1800s, I'm going to say no to the whole polygamy thing. It's a perversion of everything we believe in. It's an interesting thing. Back around the Great Depression, the Mormons really started to go after polygamists really hard. Do you know what the media did? There's a story, and I don't remember if it was in Life or one of these magazines. The media came in and started showing the plight of these families that were being ripped apart. You can't have it both ways. But, of course, that's what they try to do. I will tell you, for as hot as polygamy sounds, when I was 8, I really had a thing for Mary from Little House on the Prairie. She was hot. Then she went blind, but then I thought, she won't be able to see what I look like. It's a perfect match. Nobody in the church dresses up like Little House on the Prairie. And anybody who decides in the church that, you know what, I'm going to marry a bunch of people. It's the same in my church as it is in your church. Bye-bye. You're excommunicated. End of story. Polygamy is associated with the Mormons because the Mormons did practice it. 122 years ago, they stopped it, so it's long gone. But the question is, why could you possibly practice polygamy? I know this because I thought it was really weird, too. I'm like, okay, how'd you get to the polygamy thing? And you can't really understand the whole Mormon thing or the whole Mormon culture, really, unless you know this and the story of this. This is an original copy of the Book of Mormon. This is something that many people died to have and to read and to share. And you can't really understand polygamy or the faith unless you understand that people died for what they believe in. Polygamy, it's in the Bible: Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, Solomon, etc., etc., etc. Not entirely clear why it stopped, when it started. But it was used as a justification at the time because the reason Mormons practiced it in the 1800s for a very small window was because people were dying because of this. There was massive persecution of members of the church. They were, if I may, they were sort of the conservative talk show hosts of their day, and the rest of the country was American Airlines. I'm just saying. Mormons had been driven out of New York, Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois. And in Missouri, this happened. This is a little known piece of history. It's Executive Order number 44. It is known now in history as the Mormon Extermination Order. This is the only one of its kind in American history. No one has been exterminated before because it was so horrific. It ordered that all Mormons should be exterminated, killed. You were legally able, according to this order from the governor, to kill a Mormon. You find out somebody's Mormon, kill him, or drive him from the state. And mobs did it. Militias carried out the order, and all 10,000 members living in Missouri were killed or driven from the state. And most of them were bound for Illinois. And mainly, I think, because they didn't know what Chicago would turn into. But members in the Caldwell County were also forced to sign over all of their property, just give it back to the mobs. And then they actually had to pay the militia and the mob campaigns that were launched against them. It was kind of bad, really bad. The executive order, however, you should know, was quickly overturned 138 years later in 1976. when Governor Kit Bond formally rescinded the order. I mean, nobody had been killing Mormons for quite some time, but it was really, really bad. Why did that happen? Oh, there's an amazing story on why it happened. But I'll get to that here in a second. The most important thing you have to remember here is first, they're slaughtering. The women are leaving their houses. They're setting their houses on fire. The women go out at night. There's the trail of bloody footprints, is what it's called, where people are, they don't have shoes on, and they're out in the middle of the snow, and their feet are bleeding, and their husbands are dead. Husbands are dead. Then they go from Missouri up to Nauvoo, Illinois. The mobs came in, burned down that city as well. Then loaded up their wagons and said, get out. And the people said, you know what we got to do? We got to cross the plains. Really? Most of the men were dead. The families were ripped apart. They didn't have anything. And here's a really great thing. During the Spanish-American War, on their way across the plains, now they're leaving the country. They're not, Utah wasn't the United States of America. It wasn't America. They were leaving the country. And on their way out, Brigham Young says, just found out about the Spanish-American War. Guys, it's our duty. Everybody, head on out. And so the Mormon Brigade starts up, and they start crossing America. And it is the largest, or the longest military march in U.S. history. But nobody ever talks about it. They were being killed. They're leaving the country, and they believe so deeply in this country that they served. So one reason for polygamy was there weren't a lot of dudes left. And everybody's saying, we're going to exterminate you. And they think, we are not going to survive. We need to repopulate. That played a role. But also, women and children were left alone. Once they came to Utah, again another country, and they knew that they were secure, polygamy stopped. It didn't exist before the persecution, and it ended after the persecution. And in total, only about 5% of the Mormons actually practiced polygamy. Now, here's the other thing that, this is kind of the clincher for me on polygamy. You were assigned. It wasn't like you're like, you know what, she's pretty hot, I'm going to marry her. You were assigned. You were like, you'd be called in, and they'd say, Brother Beck, widow schoolmarm over there. And you're like, no, not widow schoolmarm. No, please, no. It was your duty to take care of the family. That's the way it was. If you think that sounds like fun, you got another thing coming. And that's what polygamists are. That's why they're not Mormons. These guys are not Mormons. That's none of that's going on. So why are they doing? And by the way, Catholics, you'll understand this. Don Corleone, I mean, he was a Catholic. No. Neither are polygamists. They're not Mormons.